instead of saying, I want to exit,
Yep.
give me a checklist. The word exit is kind of like selling death insurance.
Right.
No, I'm selling you life insurance. I'm going to give you a path forward. That's why I changed it to, I want you to find freedom to build, grow, and finish strong.
Hey, friends, and welcome back to the Justin Goodbread Show. Man, I am excited. I'm excited today. I have a friend, a dear friend, a man that I look up to in our industry. This man and I have sat on the stage together many times, instructing thousands of advisors, attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors on how to help them grow their clients' business. This individual has impacted my life off the stage. We have a lot of time to collaborate back and forth. In fact, I was just down in Marco Island, Florida with my dear friend, Gordon Bell, and he was pulling me over to the side and we were talking about his journey now, where he's at in this phase of life. And he was speaking some truth into my life, giving me some perspective on, hey, you've done this, but God's not done with you yet, man. Here's what you have ahead of you. You know, at the age of 45, after selling my companies, I got to tell you, Gordon, I've thought many times, you know, is this it? Is this all there is? And so, Friends, without further ado, let me introduce you to a friend of mine by the name of Gordon Bell. How are you, dear sir?
Hey, I'm doing fine, bud.
Man, Gordon, I'm glad to have you on the episode today, buddy. I think your journey, your life, your testimony, your experience, wow, your experience in the business place is second to none. And so I'm excited to have the audience hear from you. So let's start off with a very simple question. Who is Gordon Bell?
Born in Canada. After World War II, parents came to the States because my dad introduced something called Singer sewing machine. And Goldblatt's had all these big awards. So as a young guy, I saw my dad be in sales. And along the way, my mom and I went to work when I was in 8th grade in the restaurants because we needed extra money. And so I started working for all these entrepreneurs. I said, selling Singer sewing machines, restaurants, and nobody in my family had ever gone to college. At the high school I went to this high school with all these kids that had a lot more stuff than me, and they lived in bigger homes. And I said, and they're all going to go to college. And I said, Dad, what do you think? He said, well, you really have to go to college to be in food service or sell sewing machines? I said, I don't know, but I said, I think I do. So I always had this urge to make myself better when I look back in the rearview mirror, and also to meet people. I'm Scotch-Irish by background, and I do not know a stranger. People will say, Gord, when you go to a restaurant, your wife must go crazy. Why? It takes me a while to find my seats and on the way out.
This is true. I've seen you in a crowd. You know everybody.
I know everybody, and I found out what it was, is I have a love of God and a love of others. And I got to a point where that love transcended anything. And it was happened when I was a young elder deacon in the Christian Reformed Church. And I had a pastor mentor me in my 20s, along with 6 or 7 other guys. We started a little tiny church, in the south side of Fort Wayne. And he taught us what a true elder was and a true deacon. You are there for the needs and hurts and wants. And you're going to make hospital visits. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. And you're going to go into some tough situations. But he said, you're going to meet the most beautiful person in the world. I thought he was talking about beauty. He said, there's a piece of Christ buried in everybody in the world. They don't know it. You may not know it, but you're there to love them and help them. Well, you get into business and you get into being a young family. You're there to love and help others. The thing I learned is expect nothing in return.
I've seen that in your own life. I've seen that whenever you've helped me, as I've told you off the air and in private conversations, you've spoken in truth into my life several times over the last few years. And I can't say thank you enough. I want the audience to see this person, Gordon. I want them to know you for who I know you to be, Gordon. But before we dive into, what makes you tick, where you at today, kind of give me the highlights of your career. You've had an amazing career. And I wanted to set the stage with whenever I get to the heart of the conversation on the advice you're going to give our business owners today, I want them to know that, man, your resume and your experience is second to none. So give me the highlights of your career, if you don't mind, Gordon.
Okay. In college, I pursued food service and food engineering. And I had an incredible professor, number one food scientist in the world at the time, who had developed all the advanced technologies for warfare. And he said, when you graduate, what are you going to do, Gord? I said, I took engineering and food science and management at Purdue, and I want to be the best food equipment engineer there is and design stuff in the future. Well, at that time, all the jobs were frozen. I wanted to work for Hobart Corporation, one of the big Ohio companies. He said, the military could use your skills. I said, I'm not going to work for the government. I want to be an entrepreneur. Well, I took a job with the government, and I was with the finest scientists of the world on advanced stuff for warfare. Buried in there was R&D. What I didn't know was that was R&D that years later I would use in industry as technology and intellectual property. Well, I eventually got a job in industry as a young product manager in a pot and pan factory that made cookware for restaurants. And they said, you come up with the new products. And I said, pots and pans, I can only do so many things with. So I convinced the ownership to start buying patents and technology. And we grew that company from 19 million to 50 million, from 500,000 profit to 10 million. Bought the company along the way with Westray Capital, Bill Simon and Ray Chambers, well-known private equity people in the 1980s, way before private equity started. And here I'm in my 30s. It made me a CEO. And I said, how did that happen?
How many employees did you have in that company at that time, roughly?
I got up to about 400.
400.
And I mean, if you went to a restaurant tonight, you saw a conveyor oven, 50% chance it's ours. If you saw the biggest pots and pans, they were ours. If you saw little blue handles on cookware so your hands won't get burnt, I got a patent on that back in the 70s.
Wow.
That got copied. But what I found out was, if you ask somebody what their hurts and problems are, we'd ask chefs and dietitians, and we'd go back and engineer a new product. Came out with the first all plastic serving line, salad bars. Oh, the list just goes on.
So from that particular position, you were the CEO of that company. What was next on your journey? Next highlight?
My journey was, here I'm in my 30s. Okay. And I had reached the pinnacle in that company, and I was going to be there for the rest of my life. Well, when you get bought out by private equity and you do a public offering, guess what? At 39, they said, Gord, we're selling the company. Would you like to put a bid in? I haven't got that much walking around money. And so I went to some guys and I couldn't pull it off. So then I went back into business with the man that founded the company in the building materials industry. That had a very unfortunate ending. Without going into a lot of details, we parted company, and I got an opportunity to start a new life.
So highs and lows. So highs and lows this time. By the time you're in your early 30s?
I was 39, 40-ish.
Okay.
It was the 89, 90, 91 recession.
Yep.
And I came into a company with certain representations, and those representations were not as strong as they should have been. And without going into a lot of detail, a few years later, Pat and I started over. And I happened to write a book. And the opening of the book is, Pat says, Gord, are you going to put your boots on or are you going to stay in bed? That's code word for we lost it all, but we didn't lose our pride. We didn't lose our belief in God, but we had to downsize and simplify.
I had a guest on the show that's going to be coming out here soon. And he said, if we always fail as entrepreneurs, we fail often, but we often fail forward. And so here you are in your early 40s, you've had a pinnacle of success. You went through a hard time. As you said, you went to the low. What did you do next? What was next on the journey?
What happened then is, because it was a very significant position, and I lived in a small town, to replace that income and that was very difficult. So I spent 90 days, I'll never forget it, and I met with 43 individuals. And I said, God, what do you want me to do? And all these people knew my skills. And they said, please stay in town. Maybe you can help other business people with their journeys. And I didn't know what that meant. Was that a consultant? I'm not a banker, lawyer, or an accountant, but I'm a seasoned CEO who has built teams, plans, did financing. And I said, well, I'll go down to all my banker buddies. It was a time of turnaround. Got a certified turnaround management association thing. So a banker said, here's a business in trouble. Here's a business in trouble. I started doing that. And lo and behold, I developed a practice and I cash flowed our first year of lifestyle. I was making this much and I was now making this much. And I mean, a lot.
Yep.
And so God provided just enough loaves and fishes. I'll just give you enough to eat today. You begin to learn about what it is to focus on today and today only. And so one thing led to another. And that got parlayed into significant buy-side practice, globalized companies. But something was missing because all these companies said, would you help me with my problems? And would you help me build leadership teams? I said, I'm not doing that anymore. Then one day somebody said, I need you to help me build a leadership team. And I knew all the principles of leadership because I had been studying that in the Bible. I studied that at Harvard and I studied that at Purdue and somewhat at the University of Chicago with the CEPA program. And then Pete Chrisman gets a hold of me. Long story short, I was in the third graduating class, 17 of us. I was the oldest fart in there.
So for those of you who don't know, Peter Chrisman recently passed away. He was a dear man. He helps found what is today the Exit Planning Institute, to which I'm an instructor. And you and I were recently inducted into the Circle of Excellence, or what they call the Exit Planning Hall of Fame. So like Peter Chrisman is the person who founded all this, and he asked you to come to the program, and you're now telling me you're the oldest one at that time in the program?
At that time, again, the story of how I got there is in the book. I arrived on the scene, and my wife called me and said, son, Jim's back in the hospital. He is suffering with Crohn's disease. And I said, oh my gosh, I better go back home. So I called Jimmy. Dad, I go in and out of the hospital. Dad, stay in school. That night, I walked the streets of Chicago with 2 or 3 of the CEPAs, and they happened to be believers. They prayed for me, and we ran into a man who was in need, and we helped some people out in the street by taking care of them. And so I knew I had to be there. Well, God woke me up one day. I was walking down a trade show, I'll never forget it, and said, why don't you be an advisor to CEOs who are in trouble? This was back in 1991. So I went and became a TMA, a turnaround management, TMA certified. And I studied under Charlie Barr, the #1 turnaround guy at that era. He had done Fed Express and all this. I said, I know what CEOs go through. I can be an advisor. Well, I didn't know the word was value enhancement and all that stuff.
Right.
Well, time goes on. And I got doing all kinds of M&A. I was a buy-side junkie. I mean, if I could make a relationship in Bombay, India, I helped big multinational buy companies all over Europe and Asia for 5 years. And everybody said, why don't you do advising? And I go, I am not going to be an advisor. Then I got invited by Pete to come to Chicago to become a certified exit planner. I called all my buddies at Park Avenue and Best Star and all these wonderful private equity shops. They said, Gordon, you could teach it. I said, don't think so. And there's a chapter in my book of what happened when I went to the exit planning school.
Yeah.
And I won't bore you with those details, but it changed me. And the biggest change, Justin, was I could say, hey, Justin, I can get you some private equity capital. Let's grow your wonderful company. Nah, Gord, I don't need that today. Hey, Justin, can I help you sell your wonderful financial company? Nah, I don't want to do that, Gord. I was asking all the wrong questions.
Yep.
I should have said, Justin, can you tell me the vision you have for your life? Oh, by the way, you happen to have the illiquid asset called a business. But I'm here and more concerned about your life journey.
Hmm.
Now, if you do have a business, I've been certified to help you take you through a process. Call it 6 or 7 steps. But I'm not going to bore you with the process right now. I want to know where you are in the journey to accomplish your vision. Sit back, make some notes, and just listen to Justin talk about his wife, talk about his kids, talk about his dreams, talk about his hobbies, his business, and say, what fire do you have in the belly, buddy? I call that the mission. So vision, journey, mission. And if I can get that information out of anybody, I don't care if it's a not-for-profit, a husband and wife, a church, then you can take them through a process. At the end of the program, I said, Pete, may I have some time at the end to thank these other 16 people for their love and care for me. And I had a chance to read the scripture that I read at the end of every closing. And it comes from Solomon, a man who had it all. Ecclesiastes 11, 1 through 6. Okay, cast your bread on the water, 7 risks. And I use that because God wants us to take risks and diversify. But I think that's one of the best scriptures for how to manage risk. Now, just before Pete passed away, he and I exchanged a lot of conversations about our times when we began.
Yeah.
Pete changed my life. Vision, journey, and mission. Ask people what their hurts and hangups are. Oh, by the way, you have a process, but don't jump into the process.
Unbelievable story, brother. So, here you are I consider you young because I've met you face to face and man, my goodness, you are as vibrant as anybody I've ever met, but you're in your 70s now. What is it that you're doing today? And before you answer that question, I admire it. Number one, I was watching John Maxwell. He's a little older than you are, but I was watching him and he made this statement. He said, I'm having greater impact today than I ever have in my life. My dad, before he went to see Jesus, he said the same statement. He said, son, I have more influence in my life today than I ever have had in my life before then. So here you are after that journey. High highs, low lows, a pinnacle. You mentioned Solomon, having everything, losing it, getting it all back. What is this you're doing today and what really drives your passion?
I love to serve. And when people say, what do you mean serve? I love God and I love others. What can I do to be helpful? And if I can't do it, can I direct you to somebody who can? Now, in the world of business, that might mean somebody has got a company that's in trouble. Maybe I can't help them, but maybe I'll say, hey, Sean, can you help them? Try to be collaborative with the rest of the stables. If I can understand their vision, their life, oh, by the way, they might have something called a business, an illiquid asset that God gave them for a moment in time. If I can understand the journey to accomplish the vision, and if I can find out what fire they have in the belly or lack thereof, then I can begin to help them. And because of the Exit Planning Institute, we can lean in on a process.
Yep.
And the big pieces are the succession and the value enhancement, understanding the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and coming up with a plan to take them through the journey. Because someday they will definitely exit.
Yep. Death,
disability, divorce, disruption. Or as I always say, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I don't want to. So let me ask you this very targeted question then. You work with many, many, many business owners of every stripe, every size, every flavor across the world for that matter. What do you consider one of the top 1 or 2 traits of the successful business owner, what you describe as successful? Ooh. What makes them different than perhaps the problems that many business owners have?
Here's what I've learned. And I studied under Maxwell, by the way, yep, and many other wonderful leaders. And 19 different pastors I've had a chance to listen to and be part of their congregations. I think characteristics that I have found, leaders that are humble, ones that are not command and control. Maxwell would say servant-led. caring, paradoxical way of viewing life. Like, wonder what that guy's thinking. He's a CEO of this and all that. One that shares his wealth, one that holds people accountable, but not punitive, attacking the project, not the person.
Yep, gotcha.
One that likes to have fun. Guys and fun. Celebrate the victories. Celebrate. Or if you have a really rough time, you say, okay, brush it off. We learned back in industrial engineering school, it's continuous improvement. You had a bad day? Well, that's behind you, baby. Get up and do it.
So let's take the other side of the coin then. So those are the traits of the successful ones that you've seen over time. When you look at the business owners who often find themselves in trouble, what habits do they have that the successful ones did not have?
Okay. When I was in TMA school, the turnaround management, they talked about, was the trouble with the business internal or was it external? Like 20-25% is external factors. We hit a recession. We hit a stagflation. We hit 09, 10, and 11. Things beyond your control. Hit 9/11. Most of it is within a company. And what I learned from particularly Bill Mayer and Jim Maher, my two wonderful partners, they were former chairman and president of First Boston. They said, Gord, understand leadership. Understand the organic business plan. Does it just plain old make force sense? Can you do an elevator speech and explain it to somebody on the street? Can you take Manhattan down to Mayberry, Harvard down to Hoosier? Talk. You have predictable financials and predictable reinvestments, and you have growth options that you can't finish. And I said, what do you mean you can't finish? Because God's going to give you this entity for a while. You get to pass that on to somebody else and say, I'm not done with it yet. Last but not least, make sure you have an exit plan, which is the most important because you will exit.
Let's talk about that. What do you, whenever you use the term exit plan, what does that mean to you? Perhaps from the business owner seat that you would often find yourself in.
It's not what is my exit, because my exit might be tomorrow morning.
Right.
So I say, when you do a succession plan, you better have a contingency plan. God forbid, death, disability, divorce happens in the morning. Why? Because you want to be able to sustain the organic plan, have the predictable financials, and be able to turn that entity into a form of shareholder value that's increased.
Whenever I say the word exit plan, many times the business owners think I'm talking about them leaving their company. And you and I both know, yes, at some point we will leave the company, but part of exit planning is having the opportunity to pass the company on to those who we desire to have it, whether that be venture capital, family members, key employees, whoever it may be, at a value. And you've said it now 3 times today, taking this illiquid asset, whatever the value may be, maximizing the value on your terms and being able to convert it to a liquid asset. How many times, whenever you're talking to business owners, do they get that? Do they get the fact that I got this business over here and it's illiquid, I need to go here?
Here's what happened. I came back from the school and I immediately eliminated the word exit. Yep. I call it legacy plan. My new logo is find freedom to build, grow, and finish strong gracefully. That happened with a wonderful lady that happened to be my neighbor. She said, I want to have a graceful exit. I don't know what my company's worth. I don't know how much of it I should sell. I have a wonderful partner, and I don't want my employees hurt. Well, she gave me her vision.
Yep.
And she said, well, can you help me with it? I said, I have a process that can help you with that journey. And so we went through the process. And that became a very successful, not exit, but it allowed her to cash in her piece of wealth. It gave her a chance to take care of the employees, gave her a chance to move on and do what she wanted to do. So, and she was able to pass a legacy on. she had me meet with all of her children to say, Mom had this wonderful company. She could die in the morning. What should we do with the assets? They said, Gord, would you go on the board if we asked you to? I said, family, I'll do whatever you and Mom want done. So there, it was about her legacy, her company. She cared so much. Instead of saying, I want to exit, give me a checklist. Because I think the word exit is kind of like selling death insurance.
Right.
No, I'm selling you life insurance. Wait a minute. I get that when I die. I'm going to give you a path forward. That's why I changed it to, I want you to find freedom to build, grow, and finish strong.
Absolutely.
Finish strong is exit.
And it's on your terms, isn't it? Because I mean, like in my case, and you know my story, but just for those who don't know quite my story as detailed as Gordon does, and Gordon actually was one of my advisors during this time period I was working. I leaned into some of his wisdom. You know, Gordon, if you'll remember that, you know, I was building a highly valuable company in a very short period of time that blew all types of records out of the water, and highly valued. We're talking an 8-figure company that was less than 48 months old. And then my wife during COVID found herself in the hospital, and the company grew while I was there. And she said, Justin, what's another $1 million going to do for us? That wasn't I'm not hitting my chest. You know me well enough. I'm not hitting my chest. It was like literally a hit in my face. That moment, it was like my identity was this business. And we've heard instructors, we've heard colleagues within the CEPA community say, being able to build a business that you're truly taking care of your employees and your vendors and your customers and your communities and your charities, everything that we touch as owners, where it goes farther than, hey, exiting and putting a lot of money in your pocket. And in my case, it was my wife's about to die. And where's my focus need to be? You know, going through my own transition and moving this illiquid asset to a liquid asset, Gordon. And I know you've gone through this. I want to ask you a very tough question, or at least it's tough for me. Probably not tough for you at this point. And I internalized this in my own person, and I'm being a little bit more authentic, a little bit more vulnerable. So friends, be nice to me on the social media. Okay. But Gordon, after I sold the company, it was as if my baby, you've read my book, Your Baby's Ugly, but it was as if my baby was dead. Like, is this all that God has for me? And I can remember sitting at home, almost not quite like your wife told you, but I can remember sitting at home within the year afterwards and Emily saying, you think God's done with you now? You're only 44 years old, Justin. Seriously? Don't you realize people live to be 90? Come on, man, let's go. How many times have you seen business owners perhaps think about as transition, think about the fact their baby, this business is going to go to somebody else, and all that emotion that goes with it. Like, am I done? Am I washed up? Who's going to take for my employees? Who's going to take care of my community? What's next in life? If you were talking to that business owner out there that's internalizing various emotions, and you've seen them, you've dealt with them, you've seen me and my owner, how do you coach them? How do you encourage them as they're thinking about this business that one day we will leave?
A couple hours ago, I was with a client, be with him tonight for dinner. And I told him, I said, the most important thing we're going to talk about tonight is life after your business. Yeah. He said, oh, you mean wealth management? I said, no. I said, you are pounding hard. You're 61, 62 years old. You are going to get your nest egg. What are you going to do? Because I said, what we've learned in the Exit Planning Institute is that within the next 12 months, if you don't have a life plan for Justin, a life plan for Gordon, Pat, you are going to get lost, and you will probably try to get back into the business again, because that was your ego, your self-worth. And there's much more to that. A lot of people have said to me, Gord, how long are you going to do what you're doing? I said, for as long as God wants me to help others. When you asked me earlier, what is my number one goal? It's to serve. Yeah. I might be praying with somebody that's checking out at a cash register. I might be working on a business person where they just lost their wife in their arms, and they're saying, Gord, what do I do? We can't plan everything. But I've got a plan because I know where I'm going long term. But my whole goal is to serve others, no matter what it is.
Well,
Sometimes it's just a smile.
absolutely. So to that end, Gordon, you're currently a coach. You have been for years. You coach business owners, CEOs on how to grow value within a company, how to think about their life inconclusiveness, not just in a segment, that being the business. You know that I coach as well. I've been coaching for years. I love to coach financial advisors and business owners on how they can build net worth within their company. I often say I can teach business owners, and you know this, I can teach business owners how they can double or triple their net worth in 18 to 36 months. It's easy once you know the process, right? So from your vantage point, from your viewpoint now, decades as a business coach, what do you think the greatest single benefit is of a business owner hiring a coach to help them look at their business as an asset through this process that you and I have learned through our Exit Planning Institute?
I think what we've got is a set of eyes where we're not tied up in our daily operations. I make a point to talk to each client for a few minutes each week. Oh, Justin, how are you doing? How are you and your family doing? How's your business doing? That's the third question. I want to make sure that you're healthy. And so I go from there. The other thing is I'm blessed with 110 now people that I've used as collaborative alliance partners. Gee, somebody might need an industrial engineer to help fix their factory. There's a marketing communication company that can help you build market share. There's another SEPA that knows valuation way better than I will do. I can bring in professionals
Right
at the right moment. There's days I'm a quarterback and there's days I'm a wide receiver. Because I don't know it all. But if I know their vision and their journey, and the three legs of the stool, personal, financial, and business goals,
right,
and I've figured out succession and done the SWOT analysis, the value enhancement, I can guide them. Then the other thing is if they allow me to do the analysis with their senior leadership team, and they say, oh, no, you're going to talk to them about selling. I go, no, I'm talking about risk management.
Yeah.
We want this company to be attractive, and we want it to be prepared because you might not be here, buddy.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that attractiveness piece and the preparedness piece.
Right.
Oh, how do you do that? Well, we have a process and we lean into it. And look at how many wonderful people have been certified in this process. It's not just about me. We've got teams of people that can help. And they're very collaborative. At the last convention, it was amazing. People weren't competing against one another. They were helpful.
Yeah, and what Gordon's alluding to is in the Exit Planning Institute, the community, there are thousands of certified exit planning advisors. For example, I've been a certified exit planning advisor. I'm one of the few faculty members who actually teach others on how to actually do what we've been talking about. But there are individuals who are attorneys, CPAs, business people like Gordon who work on value, work on this transition out of the company to life. There are people who only solely work with estates. There are solely people who work only within marketing, only within IT, whatever a business needs. Between our community, Gordon, we know a professional who knows the framework on how to maximize the value of the company, and more importantly, how to help that business owner reach their vision and dreams. And I think you've hit that a couple of times. So, I've got two questions remaining for you, Gordon. The first one is you've mentioned now your book. Now, I've read your book. I have an autographed copy of your book. Talk to me about the title of your book and where can our listeners pick up a copy of your book?
Well, I've given away 10,180 books as of today. Yes, I do sell them, but I give them away. A waitress does a great job. Rescue Mission needed 1,500 to raise money for the people who have lesser means. Youth for Christ has used it. Jails, prisons. I just give them away.
And what's the title of your book right now? What's the title of your book?
Discover Your Next Best Step, 10 Proven Principles of Servant Leadership Wisdom. It's got stories of people that you would know, people that have endorsed it all the way from Dale Carnegie to some very interesting entrepreneurs in the country that vetted it. We tested the book with 200 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to see if they could learn leadership principles. had 30 CEOs go to a 10-week class that I taught, and I changed all the wording. So it was a labor of love.
Yeah.
Then I tried to go out and sell it, and I said, I'm not going on the road and stuck stern a book. Maybe someday God wants me to do that. I just give it away. You can buy it for $14.95 if you want. But
Okay.
that's the least of my concerns.
Well, we'll put a link down below because anytime we have an author, somebody's put things in writing. You know me and my love of books. I've been reading a book a week since I was 16. So I've read thousands of books, right? I love reading books. And so I think yours is up there. It's very well written. And like I said, you've helped me personally through this thing. So let me ask you a question. Okay. And I'm going to ask you the question, and I'm going to talk for a second, give you a chance to collect your thoughts. My question is ultimately this. Let's say, Gordon, that you're sitting around the desk, maybe your living room with your children, your grandchildren, and you have one piece of advice that you're going to give your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. It doesn't have to be about business. It can be about anything you want to say. The reason why I asked that question, I've asked that to all guests who've come on the show. The reason why I asked that, Gordon, is because I believe the cemetery is the saddest place in the world. Not because somebody's died. That's natural. We know we know that they're hopefully with Jesus at some point. But the fact is they've lived a life and that wisdom has not been captured. And oftentimes wisdom dies and is buried with that particular person. And if we could have had everybody's perils of wisdom throughout the millennia that our earth has been in existence, imagine the impact that you and I could have. So I love to ask people, especially those who have lived longer than me, what is that one piece of wisdom that if you're around the table with your kids and your grandkids, the people that you love the dearest, that are going to look at Papa Gordon, Papa Bell and say, hey, Gordo, tell me that nugget. What would it be, Gordon?
Real simple. The last chapter of my book. I learned what unconditional love was. The love of Jesus and the love of my wife. That's where I get unconditional love. And my whole goal, whether it's my grandchildren, my children, is to pass Christ on. Not the word Christ, but what characteristics did that man, while he had a very short time on earth, possess? Love of your fellow man, serving others, pursuing excellence, being a good steward of what he was given, taking risk, getting out in the world, pursuing quality, basic principles. Oh, by the way, when somebody asks me to give a talk in a public forum, they say, Gordon, you can't use scriptures and all that. I said, it's not a problem. The principles are universal. Yep. I talk about love and I talk about things like that. And then I slip one in at the end. I say, do you have an American flag in this building? They go, yes, we do. I said, are you still saying a Pledge of Allegiance in this high school? We are. I said, you get to the word under God. You do. I said, that's where it came from. Have a great day. And I leave.
Wow.
And so it all came from God. We'll all return to God. That's in 1 Chronicles.
Absolutely.
So I know passing Christ, the principles that I learned. Yeah. And unconditional love from an actual person on planet Earth happens to be my wife of 58 years.
Well, friends, I hope this has been an encouragement to you. This man has impacted my life drastically in a positive way. First time I met him was 3, 4, 5 years ago. We were on stage together. I was like, who is this guy? And he probably said, who is this guy? Because we're opposites. He's calm, cool, and collected. I'm like a termite and a yo-yo. I mean, I'm like the little Jack Russell Terrier. You let the car out and here I go. And we're on stage together. And then Gordon pulled me aside during a time of my life whenever I was having a hard time with my wife, very sick. And he loved me. And he spoke truth into my life. And so I've learned, friends, that no matter where you're at in life, there's somebody who's walked a journey maybe not that dissimilar than what you've walked. There are individuals that you can look up to, that you can look at their life, look at their walk, look at their ethos, the core of who they are. And you can model your life after them. This is a man of such that I have deep respect for. So, Gordon, man, thank you so much for your time today to come on the show to impact the business owners. Thank you so much, friend. I appreciate your time today.
Well, appreciate you. I love you.
I know that, buddy. Well, friends, until next time, y'all go out and make it a great day. It's not going to happen unless you're intentional about it and you make it. Y'all take care.